Oi oi girls and boys and everything in between, it's Ace Trinilium, and today I'm bringing you a top 10 that technically you all want me to do, you just don't know you want me to do it. As someone who makes a lot of list videos, be it top 10 favourite Pokemon, top 10 favourite water types, top 10 most overrated Pokemon, top 10 Pokemon I don't like, stupidly overpowered Pokemon, favourite Pokemon moments, all those kinds of lists are always met with the same kinds of comments. And aside from the supportive comments saying great list, here's mine, or the negative comments saying you're an asshole, please don't make any more videos, I also get a lot of comments that are, why not this Pokemon? Why not this Pokemon? Why didn't you put this one in the list? I would have put this one in the list. I can't believe this one isn't in the list. What is wrong with you, Liam? So then I thought to myself, you know what? Let's make a list of the 10 Pokemon that I most commonly see asked for in the comment section of my top 10 videos. If that's a concept you can understand, follow along and let's have a look at the 10 Pokemon the internet wants me to put in this top 10 list. Oh, by the way, these Pokemon are in no particular order, but I'm still going to count down from 10 to 1 because, hey, top 10, why not? Number 10, Flygon. Flygon is a very beautiful Pokemon, and it's a very useful Pokemon if used in the right circumstances. But one of the things that I find with Flygon is it's one of those Pokemon where people seem to treat it as though it's an overlooked Pokemon. It's a forgotten Pokemon. It's a Pokemon that people don't remember exists. When, in my opinion, it's a Pokemon that I don't hear people shutting up about. No matter what list I'm doing, whether it's my favourite Pokemon, or whether it's Pokemon that are really good in battle, or whether it's best Dragon types or best ground types, you'll always get someone in the comments going, why wasn't Flygon in this list? Or why wasn't it higher in this list? Or Flygon is bae? Or where's Flygon? And I get it, you guys love Flygon and it's easy to see why. I totally see it. I just want you guys to know that if I don't put Flygon in a list, it's not because I don't like it. I love this Pokemon. I love its design, I love its typing, just everything about Flygon is great. It's just there are other Pokemon that I prefer to Flygon, which is why it doesn't always appear on my lists. But if it fits on your list, that's fantastic, and that's what really matters. Number 9, Eevee. Eevee's one of those Pokemon that we know is incredibly versatile. The thing is with Eevee is a lot of people ask for it to be in top 10 lists in places that it really doesn't fit. Like, you want to do a list of the coolest Pokemon, the Pokemon that you think look the coolest, and people will be like, oh, Eevee should be in this list because it has 8 evolutions, and it's like, yeah, but really, you're only telling me it should be in this list because you like 3 or 4 of the evolutions, and you don't actually like the rest of them, and you probably never bother with the rest of them, so it's not even like it has 8, it's more like it has the 4 that you like, and they should be in the list, not really Eevee. Eevee's just kind of the reason those Pokemon exist. It's not really the Pokemon that you think are cool. Does that make sense? It makes sense to me. And I get as well, it has its own Z move and it's very iconic and it's one of those Pokemon that's always used in promotional stuff for Pokemon. Like there'll always be some kind of Eevee plush or there'll be some kind of Eevee figurine because it's marketable. Because it's Eevee and its evolutions that are marketable because there's so many of them. And it has to be included because why would you make evolution figures and not Eevee? So all in all, I can totally understand why you guys would want Eevee in a top 10 list, and here you go. Number 8, Kyurem. Kyurem's a really funny one, because as much as people hate on Gen 5, and don't get me wrong, I love Gen 5, I think the story's great, it's one of the most in-depth stories I think we've had in a Pokemon game ever. I love the region, I love the characters, some of the Pokemon aren't great, but I do like, for the majority, the roster of Gen 5 Pokemon, but it gets so much hate, and there are so many people that bang on about how much they don't like Gen 5, and how Gen 5 was the worst gen, and they don't like Unova as a region, and they don't like this, and they don't like that, all about Gen 5. But then you're like, oh, what's your favourite legendary Pokemon? Kyurem. Always Kyurem. Like, I don't disagree with you. Kyurem is absolutely a phenomenal Pokemon, and it's great. I did a form fight on Kyurem really recently that you guys were asking for absolutely to death, but I always just find it really funny that no matter what kind of list I do, there's always someone who's like, why not Kyurem? Where's Kyurem? And it's like, but so many people hate on Gen 5, yet there is literally so much love for one of the Gen 5 legendaries. It's really bizarre to me that people can love the legendaries so much, but they can absolutely detest the generation. Number 7, Mewtwo. Again, another legendary Pokemon that I see time and time again being requested as an addition to a top 10 list. Whether it's top 10 psychic type Pokemon, whether it's top 10 legendary Pokemon or overpowered Pokemon or whatnot, it's always Mewtwo. People love the original legendary Pokemon. I know it's not the legendary Pokemon according to the Pokedex because that is Arcanine, but I mean the original OG final boss of Pokemon Red and Blue. I mean, Mewtwo does have a special place in my heart because, of course, I absolutely adore Pokemon the first movie, all of its flaws aside. But Mewtwo was a great antagonist in that movie, and it really did make me kind of bond with that character, and I've grown up being a fan of Mewtwo for a very long time. I don't always put it in my top 10 list because there are always other Pokemon that I prefer to it most of the time. I think that's a misconception that a lot of people get with top 10 lists as well, and I really want you guys to understand that if someone makes a list of their 10 favorite Pokemon, it doesn't mean that all 800 plus other Pokemon that aren't in that list are hated by that person. It's just not the case. It's just that the Pokemon that you think should have been in the list is maybe number 11, number 12, maybe even number 20. It's just that that person has some Pokemon that it does like, which is a positive thing, more than the Pokemon you're thinking about. It doesn't mean that after 10, you hate everything else, because that's just not how reality works. Mewtwo's a perfect example of this because it's a Pokemon that I don't include in a lot of lists, but I know a lot of you people out there would include in your lists. Although some of you would agree that maybe Mewtwo does rank like 11 or 12. Again, doesn't mean you hate it, right? Number 6, Ash Greninja. Now, it's pretty common knowledge that I'm just not the biggest fan of Greninja. It's not really one of my favorite Pokemon. It's not really a Pokemon I even care for. Like, I even prefer Frogadier to Greninja. So when Ash Greninja came out, that is just a combination of Greninja with Ash Ketchum's kind of hair, I guess, I wasn't that interested in this Pokemon either. But apparently a lot of you guys are, especially you kids that grew up watching the XYZ anime, who are obviously exposed to Ash Greninja a lot more than the rest of us. And of course, a lot of you will have played the Pokemon Sun and Moon demo, which allowed you to transfer Ash Greninja into your game, and it's like the only real way to get Ash Greninja, I believe. So I understand why a lot of you would be saying to me, hey Liam, why didn't you put Ash Greninja in this list? Hey Liam, where's Ash Greninja? And I also understand that it is a good Pokemon. I understand it has great speed, it has great special attack, it's got its water shuriken, and it gets priority and all that jazz. I can see why you like it. I can see how it's been marketed towards you to encourage you to like it. It doesn't really make me like it anymore, but I can completely sympathize with you wanting it in top 10 lists. I can understand why you'd rank it so highly. I can see how much success you guys have using it in your teams on Battlespot and on Showdown and things like that. I totally get why you like it. I mean, it's not for me. It kind of looks like a Greninja just with a bit of clown makeup, but if it's what you like, that's what matters really, isn't it? Ash Greninja is certainly a Pokemon. Number 5, Sceptile. I get, again, that a lot of you love this Pokemon, and I totally understand it because, again, this is a very good example of those people who grew up watching the Hoenn arc of the Pokemon anime will have spent a lot of time with Ash and his Sceptile, and all that quirky twig he keeps in his mouth. What a character! For the most part, Sceptile is a fantastic Pokemon to use. It's a starter Pokemon. It's supposed to be a special Pokemon. It's supposed to be a little bit above average. You don't tend to get starter Pokemon where their stats completely suck. And I guess people just find something cool about an upright standing lizard with a Christmas tree for a tail, especially when it mega evolves and basically grows baubles and has an even bigger Christmas tree for a tail. As a lot of you will remember, I got a lot of stick for my top 10 Pokemon owned by Ash Ketchum because I didn't include Sceptile and I didn't include Infernape, and people were very, very unhappy with that because you're not allowed your own opinion on the internet. That would just be crazy, right? Number 4, Infernape. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Infernape was just basically, I could have put Infernape 4th, Sceptile 5th. Doesn't really make a difference because they're in here for the same reason. Infernape was a massive, huge part of the story of the Diamond and Pearl series in the Pokemon anime. Like, the whole story basically centered around Ash and his Infernape, and Ash trying to bring out the full potential of Infernape, make it able to activate Blaze, bring Ash the victory. Like, his Infernape story arc is one of the most iconic story arcs in all of Pokemon. And again, as an actual Pokemon in the video game, it's a very useful Pokemon to have. It has a great array of stats, it has great moveset. It's certainly a Pokemon that can be used effectively, and I can understand why so many people like it. Number 3, Dunsparce. Dunsparce is a Pokemon that, I'll be honest, I don't really care about. I get the appeal, and I understand that so many people empathize with Dunsparce because it isn't that great of a Pokemon. Yeah, it can do some damage if it's allowed to roll out for long enough, but there are so many strategies to trump a rollout, it's not really that effective. I get that a lot of people can understand the plight of Dunsparce because it has a miserable existence and it's so overlooked and it doesn't evolve, even though it deserves to evolve, everybody says. It should have a Mega Evolution, Drampa should have been its evolutionary form and things like that, and I get it. You guys can kind of empathize with it and sympathize with it because you can understand, well, I know what it's like to feel unwanted or to feel like I'm not achieving my true potential. But at the same time, I can achieve something, so why can't Dunsparce? It's just lame. It's just a lame Pokemon. I'm sorry if you like it. Like, it's cute in a way, in a weird kind of way, it's kind of cute. But other than that, it's just one of those garbage Pokemon that's always going to be garbage. It's never going to achieve anything. Dunsparce is one of those Pokemon where Game Freak have designed it. They didn't have any plans for anything beyond Dunsparce, and they're never going to have any plans for anything beyond Dunsparce. Dunsparce is a one-stage Pokemon that ain't very good, and it ain't ever gonna be very good. It's a prime example. Basically, Dunsparce is a great example of this is what will happen to you if you don't work hard to achieve your potential. If you work hard and you chase your dreams, you can be anything other than Dunsparce. If you just sit there and wallow in self-pity, then you'll always be a Dunsparce. That's a beautiful testament to life. So this is why Dunsparce is such an important Pokemon, is because it's showing you exactly what you shouldn't be doing with your life. Number 2, Charizard. Of course, Charizard is one of those Pokemon that's so frequently called into question if ever it doesn't appear in a top 10 list. Whether it's flying types, whether it's Pokemon with Mega Evolutions, whether it's fire types, whether it's best Pokemon of all time, whether it's favorite Pokemon, whether it's strongest Pokemon, whether it's, I don't know. It's just always, oh hey, why didn't you include Charizard? Charizard's amazing. I love Charizard. Oh my god, Charizard's so overrated. Oh my god, Charizard's so underrated. It's just mind-boggling the number of top 10 lists that people seem to want Charizard to be in. It's just infinite. I understand Charizard's appeal because I'm a big Charizard fan as well. I really like it. It's a cool dragon-looking non-dragon with really cool wings. It breathes fire, has a flaming tail. Everybody since 1996 has been dreaming of owning a creature like a Charizard, if not an actual Charizard. It's so iconic in Pokemon that it got a place as a playable character in Super Smash Bros., whereas Blastoise and Venusaur very much didn't. Much like Infernape and Sceptile, with it being a starter Pokemon and with it having such a significant arc in the Pokemon anime, especially in the very early series, which is one of the most iconic series of Pokemon because so many people were watching it back then compared to today, that it's undeniable that so many people are going to be big fans of Charizard. Whether you think that's warranted, whether you think that's not warranted, it doesn't matter. Charizard is one of the most popular Pokemon, and that's why it's always requested in so many top 10 lists, and that's why it's in this one. Number 1, Mega Rayquaza. Now this is a Pokemon that I didn't include in my top 10 favourite stupidly overpowered Pokemon, and that's probably, much like I said earlier, it's probably because Mega Rayquaza to me, out of all the Pokemon that are stupidly overpowered, I'd say Mega Rayquaza is probably like number 11 or number 12 to me. Not in terms of how powerful it is, because it's one of the most powerful Pokemon, but of my favourites of that bunch, it's just, I just prefer other Pokemon to it, you know? It's just a just a Rayquaza with lots of jewelry, and that's fine. If that's what you like, that's great. And if you love it, it's great, because I like it too. Just liked the other stuff more. But this is also a Pokemon that is often seen as one of the favorites of the franchise, even though it hasn't had very much anime time, which is normally a factor in whether kids like a certain Pokemon or not. It's certainly one of those Pokemon where, because we pretty much get handed it by Game Freak, especially in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, where you have to catch Rayquaza. You can't not catch Rayquaza because it will just repeat the battle and repeat the battle and repeat the battle until you catch it. It's one of those where it's just been given to us, and therefore if you give a kid access to a Pokemon that's that powerful, they're going to go on Battle Spot, they're going to clean house with it, and they're just going to constantly use Mega Rayquaza because they're thinking that they're good at the game, when in actual fact they're just really good at going, hey, this Pokemon's got a base stat total of 780. Let's use that, maybe I'll win this time. It's one of those Pokemon, I mean, it's beatable, don't get me wrong, it's a Pokemon that can easily be taken down, but it's just one of those Pokemon where people love it because it's so stupid. It's so dumb in that it's so ridiculously overpowered. And it's one of those where, because it's overpowered, you therefore technically will always get more wins with it than losses. You don't really need a lot of skill to use a Mega Rayquaza, and therefore, the more you win with it, the more you like that Pokemon, and therefore it stays in your heart and in your mind as a Pokemon that you want to see and you want to use over and over again. So when people don't include it in their lists, you're like, why was this Pokemon not here? This is one of the best Pokemon of all time, man! And I completely see where you're coming from. It's not my favorite Pokemon, it's certainly far from my favorite Pokemon, but it is one of the Pokemon that I can see how good it is, I can understand why you guys like it, and I know you guys want it to be in almost every list I could possibly make, but it's just not always feasible. So that's why it's having a very special place as number 1 on this list, just so that no matter what happens, there was always that one time where I get Mega Rayquaza the place in the list that you guys think it really deserves. So that was my weird list of the top 10 Pokemon that you guys want me to put in a top 10 list. Let me know, did I miss any Pokemon out of this list? Pop it in the comments below. Tell me why you think a Pokemon is so commonly requested to be put in a top 10 list. I don't know what made me think of doing a list like this. Maybe because I'm a bit of a... But all I know is I actually had really loads of fun making this list. So if you want more kind of unique, quirky lists like this, again, let me know in the comments below. Show that you enjoyed it, hit the like button, and I'll see you in the very next video if you subscribe and turn on notifications. Until then, I'm Ace Greninja. Keep on training.